So I don't really make a whole lot of YouTube videos anymore, so I decided just off the cusp, I'm just gonna do something simple and easy. And that is today, I'm going to just rank all the parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which isn't something usually in my content. I don't think I've ever made a JoJo's video. You know, I've made a lot of Dragon Ball videos mostly. Jeez, I'm a big fucking forehead. But yeah, so I'll just be ranking the JoJo parts. I've been a fan of JoJo's for not that long. Little under, I want to say under 2 years now. I got introduced to it in late 2020. Starting with part 1, I watched it on Netflix and I loved it, so I watched all the way up to part 5, and then I went back and reread all of the manga up to part 8. Originally, wasn't even gonna watch part 8, but this isn't a very original idea, but I want to make an MCU movie ranking, but that'll take a lot more time, and I'm lazy, so this is all we got, so let's begin. Part 1 is in last place. Part 1 isn't bad. It's kind of just basic and a little boring, a little bland, honestly. Definitely wears a lot of its influences on its shoulder, you know, a lot of the, you know, manga at the time, but overall it wasn't the worst thing ever. I think it's a decent watch or read. But by the way, all my rankings are based off the manga, not the anime, because part 6, 7, and 8 either aren't animated or just haven't been finished. So yeah, yeah, part 1 is, you know, it's, for what it is, it works. I mean, Jonathan isn't the most interesting protagonist, but I don't think he's an awful one. And I think some of the side characters like Speedwagon and yeah, just Speedwagon they're fun, you know. Dio is incredibly vile and a really well-written villain in this. Although oftentimes the art isn't really top-notch, a lot of weird anatomy stuff. Guys have like huge muscles and it just doesn't really make much sense. But I think overall, for what part 1 is, it's solid. It works. Dio! So in 7th, we have part 3. The part 3 anime is significantly worse than the manga, but the manga isn't that bad because the pacing is a lot faster, it's a lot more quick, it doesn't feel as lethargic, you know? And I think part 3 had a very good evolution of Rocky's art style from a lot of what part 1 and 2 was into the part 3 and early part 4 style. Overall though, I'm just not really a fan of it. I think a lot of the stands are boring, you know. Star Platinum is just punches hard, then you can stop time. You know, you have Magician's Red, which is fire. You have, I don't even remember most of the stands. They're all based off tarot cards too. I think the only stand that's not is Cream. I think that's the only one. I think, okay, there's a tenor sax stand too, I think. But yeah, those are the only two as far as I know. But yeah, it's just a lot of the villains are very interesting, and unfortunately you don't get a lot of the, you know, connections and interactions between main characters at all. It's a huge, like, it's the part that does like the main interactions between characters worse, because part 1 and 2, a lot of it was carried by the interactions between, you know, the Joe Bros and the master and disciples, you know, Lisa and Joseph and Zappelli and Jonathan. And when you don't have stuff like that very often, it does suck, you know. Like, we should have seen more interaction between Jotaro and Kakyoin, or Jotaro and Joseph and stuff like that, but a lot of it, and there's a lot of focus on Polnareff, unfortunately, which could have given that to Kakyoin, because Kakyoin is a cool character, but yeah. Although, I do have to say, probably has the best ending fight in the entire series, so I guess there's that.
Made in heaven.
Number 6, we have part 6. Part 6 is very divisive for me. There's a lot of parts of it that I like, no pun intended. There's a lot of parts of it I just don't really care for. Spoilers, by the way, because I'm just gonna fucking spoil it. I don't really care. Poochie was a main villain I didn't particularly enjoy at first, but as time went on, I slowly liked him more and more. You know, I like his design. His stands are really cool. I think Sea Moon and Made in Heaven are awesome. White Snake too, obviously. Can't forget White Snake. But then there's a lot of stuff in it. The pacing is not very good. I think there's 2 arcs in particular, the maximum security prison part, whatever, and then the Dio's children. Those really suck. They're not fun to get through. They're really slow, lethargic, just bloated. With the maximum security stuff, you have just some of the more uninteresting fights. Planet Waves, or Earth, Wind, and Fire, I think is what it was originally. Boring stand, it's just shooting asteroids. And then Survivor is not a very interesting stand either, honestly. Not to mention the Dio's children. I don't like any of them. I don't even remember their names anymore. Is Versace's the blonde one, right? Ungaro is like the fucked up one. Raikio? Is that the one who wears like the Cadillac costume? I think. And then Versace's the blonde one. I don't really care for either of them. Their stands are like really weird too. Bohemian Rhapsody is like a very odd stand. You know, it brings like fictional characters to life, and it's just not really used very well in my opinion. And he gets taken out way too fast. I don't even remember Raikio's stand. I don't remember what it is. I know it has something to do with like these broad things. I don't know. But yeah, they're just not interesting. The final battle is really cool though, honestly. The ending is really well done too. I think the whole universe reset stuff was very cool. You know, other than that though, just part 6 was very underwhelming in a lot of ways, and I don't know, I like the characters, you know, I like all the main characters. I like, you know, I like Weather, I like Foo Fighters, I like, you know, Hermes, one of the two, and I like Jolene a lot, you know. So it's just really unfortunate that I don't like the part as much as I do. So yeah, it ends up at number 6. Okay, at number 5, which is the last part in the bottom half of this tier, not the tier list, the ranking, we have part 2. Part 2 is interesting. It's not very long, and it's I think it's shorter than part 3, but it's longer than part 1, and I think kind of it works in that way, you know, because the 3 main villains, Wham, Cars, and who's the third one? Wham, Cars, and I'm not remembering. Yeah, all of them, and then I can remember Santana, but I can't remember the last of the Pillarman one, whatever, you know. But it's just like a fun, enjoyable part. Joseph's a really charismatic, really interesting main character. Even though he has like a lot of plot armor and he can become like bullshit at times, it's fun to see, you know, the bullshit he makes. Some of the side characters are really good, like the German guy, you know, and the Caesar. He's an okay character, and Lisa is pretty cool too. So overall, part two is just a very enjoyable. As I was saying, part 2 is just a very enjoyable part overall, and yeah. Okay, so with this next one, we get into the upper half of the list.
They're coming for me. No, no, no! Stay back!
So, at number 4, we have part 5. Part 5 is interesting to me because a lot of the problems I have with it are with some of the characters and like pacing issues and stuff. I think the manga is quite bloated, honestly. So if I'm gonna be honest, if this was an anime ranking, Part 5 would probably be number 1, but it's not. Still though, Part 5 has a lot of really interesting stands and characters. Risotto Nero is my favorite character from Part 5, and Metallica is an awesome stand, and he's so underutilized, and it sucks that he just dies like he does. Diavolo and Doppio, I'm not really the biggest fan of, didn't really care for them. They kind of tried to do what Kira did, but I think it just failed, and Araki would do the whole mysterious villain thing way better in Part 7 and 8 anyways. Just really important, and even Part 6, it's just really unfortunate, you know. But I think the interactions between the main characters are nice. I don't dislike any of the main characters. I don't even dislike Fugo, and Fugo sucks. You know, he just disappears halfway through because he's supposed to be a spy or something. Although I do have to say, Giorno is probably one of my least favorite protagonists. I didn't really get invested into his character. He was kind of bland for me, honestly. It wasn't very interesting. His stand is okay. I don't really like the Requiem stands at all. I think they're quite just, their abilities is just be the perfect stand at that particular time. That's just boring, honestly, very plot armory. It's just not really fun for me, honestly. And it spiraled into so many versus debates, like, can Giorno beat Goku? Who cares, dude? It doesn't matter. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. You know, Part 5 is still enjoyable. I love the scenery, the costume designs, just the idea of being in a gang. I like Passione. I think it's overall still a decent part. Okay, at the top 3 now. At number 3, we have Part 4. I haven't been saying any of their names. Diamond is Unbreakable. Yeah, I mean, this one and Part 7 are usually the fan favorites, and yeah, I see why, you know. As someone, the most likable main cast, you know, you have Josuke, I'm blanking on some of their names. Rohan is a fan favorite, even though he's not particularly my favorite character, you know, at all. Who's the guy with the hand? I forgot. Okuyasu. Okay, yeah, Okuyasu. I'm sorry. Okuyasu, Rohan. Jotaro is a lot more interesting in this movie. I think he works way better as a parental guidance figure. I didn't mention him in the Part 6, but Part 6 I liked him a lot there too. He worked really well, and he also works really well in Part 4 overall. And he has the best Jotaro design. I fucking love it. This also had one of the biggest evolutions in Araki's art style. You went from kind of the buff Chad art style of Part 3 to the more soft and effeminate art style of what would be later on Part 5 and 6, and would eventually evolve into Part 7. So it's really nice to see, and by the end of it, I think Araki's art is beautiful. And of course, you can't forget to mention Kira. Kira is an awesome villain. I love Yoshikage Kira. If 2 other villains didn't exist, he'd still be my favorite by far. Completely shits on Dio and Cars, and yeah, those are the only 2 other villains prior. And Diabolo, obviously. So, you know, I think Part 4 it's just a slice of life. It's enjoyable. You know, it can be a little slow at the beginning, but I think it all pays off really well because the second half of Part 4, very good, very enjoyable. When you start delving into like the murder mystery stuff. Also, rip the homie Shigechi, never forget. So yeah.
Dirty D's done that cheap.
Okay, at number 2, none of this is scripted, by the way. I literally just sat down. I was like, you know what? I'll get out the lawn chair. It's this lawn camping chair, and I'll go through it. But yeah, number 2, we have Part 7. Steel Ball Run. This is like, for people who haven't read Part 7, it's not their favorite. For people who have read Part 7, it's generally their favorite, and yeah, I can see why. This is the first one where you, like, you had more morally questionable main protagonists. I know Giorno and Jolene were morally questionable, but ultimately they were good people still. They just ended up doing bad things and stuff. You know, like Giorno still stole from people, but ultimately he didn't like to kill innocents. He always wanted to protect people and stuff like that. And Jolene was just, you know, kind of an attention seeker and stuff like that. But Johnny, on the other hand, is genuinely like kind of a bad person. You know, he you know, uses people for his own benefit, and it's actually quite refreshing to see a protagonist like that, especially since, you know, you usually had like morally good protagonists. Since this is an alternative universe that has no connection to Part 6's ending, Araki just could do whatever the hell he wanted. If I remember correctly, it wasn't even titled as a JoJo series until like it got onto I believe Ultra Trump, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, a lot of the stands are great in this. Some of my favorite characters, like Gyro is awesome, Johnny is, like I said. I'm not the biggest fan of Diego. I like Mountain Tim a lot. I really dislike, spoilers by the way, I really dislike how Mountain Tim dies way early on. He really shouldn't have. So yeah, it's really unfortunate. I think Lucy Steele is an interesting character too, and her husband, I think I like them overall. And of course, you can't forget to mention the God himself, the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Oh no, not Donald Trump, it's Funny Valentine. Both blonde though. So yeah, Funny Valentine is pretty cool. His stand, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, pretty cool. Love Train is also really great stand. I like its ability, and I like how a lot of that stuff will be further elaborated on in Part 8, you know. Spin is way cooler than Hamon. I didn't even bother to mention Hamon because Hamon fucking sucks. It's lame. And Araki basically ran out of old ideas in Part 2. Yeah, Spin is way cooler. I think it's a more interesting power set, you know. I think the things that Johnny and Gyro do are a lot more interesting in it. Honestly, I don't really remember a lot of the villains, like minor villains. I remember Oyo Kamova, I think is his name, his name. And then the doctor, I don't remember the doctor's name. Yeah, overall, Steel Run's great. Its artwork is great. Its characters are great. It's great. What else can I say? Of course, in first place, what else do we have but Part 8? This was actually the first part that I was around to see in publication. I read it to the end. Yeah, I really like this, and it might be because of recency bias, because this is the first part I was actually able to, you know, kind of genuinely explore, because, you know, I got to see it finish. Sure, I joined in, like, relatively late, you know, about 10 years late, but still, I was able to really enjoy a lot of the concepts and characters. Some of my favorite characters from this, I think, Josuke in this part, or Gappy, is my favorite protagonist in JoJo. Yasuho is an awesome character too. Mamazuku is my favorite JoBro, and his death hits so hard. Is it Kyo or Kei Nijimura? I think it's Kei Nijimura. She's pretty cool too. I think like earlier in the part, Araki had a lot of ideas that he either just didn't implement well or kind of abandoned. You can kind of see that, like the guy from the Vision, you know, that we never really saw again. Some people have theorized that it's just a character we saw later on, but I don't know, really. It's a thing that the anime can improve on. Like, if that is a character we were to see later on, luckily the anime will be able to fix and improve upon that. So, you know, and yeah, I just think that this is, I'm not even gonna really spoil a whole lot of it. I mean, you know, I think the rock humans are really cool villains. Toru is my favorite JoJo's antagonist, probably. Toru and the One Review, both great. He is a bit underdeveloped, honestly, and I do have to agree, he kind of showed up a little too late, but I think overall he still works. So yeah, part 8, maybe recency bias, but I just think from the artwork, the story, the characters, the fights are so good. Yeah, I think overall it's just my favorite part. Yeah, so what's your guys' part ranking? You know, you can do anime, manga, whatever. You can do both. Why not? So this is my ranking of the parts. Might do an MCU movie ranking like after Black Panther comes out, because I'll have a nice significant amount of time until Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out. I'll have like, what, 4 months or something like that? 5? 6, actually. It doesn't come out until May, right? So plenty of time to rewatch all the old MCU movies. So yeah, this was my part ranking. I didn't really put a lot of thought or effort into it. I could probably give a more concise review of these parts and put more concise ranking if I actually, you know, scripted it, but I kind of just wanted to freeball it, you know. I feel like I'm kind of at my best when I'm able to just give my raw thoughts, you know. So yeah, thanks for watching.